I was going to do a really quick update because I have some really exciting news and it still doesn't really feel real right now that is happening. So earlier this year, back in January, me and Sam, my boyfriend, moved into our first place together. It's a rental, gorgeous Victorian apartment. It's kind of, I really wanted to live in a Victorian apartment. It was just kind of on my to-do list, and I'm so grateful we're living here. But the reason we're living here in this rental is because we pulled out of our house sale back in December. So we'd gone through 6 months of paperwork and toing and fromming with solicitors, and we eventually pulled out in December because the interest jumped so high. We just didn't feel that it was justifiable for the place that we were going to buy. So we've ended up renting this place, which is stunning, and I think it was a really good idea because it kind of gave us both a chance to test run living together and finding our feet with who does what jobs. And we've been together 3 years, but we were just figuring out if this would really work, and I just think it's been amazing for us. Anyway, me being me, I continued to scroll through Rightmove once we moved in because firstly, Rightmove is just, I love looking through Rightmove. That's like one of my favourite things. Also, I did want to keep an eye out to see if there was any properties, even though I know interest had increased. Me and Sam had kind of come to the conclusion that we were happy to wait another 2 years, but if worse come to worse, we kind of wanted to be moved out by the time we were 30, so that was another 4 years max. So we kind of had that in our heads. Anyway, like I said, I was scrolling Rightmove and an advert came up for a housing development. And I thought, you know what, it's probably really good if we go and speak to some housing developments about some schemes for younger people buying houses and if there's options out there for those with a lower deposit. So I just wanted to get all of the information I can so that we could make strategic moves towards getting a house. Sorry, the camera died, so I hope I can pick up where I left off. I think I was talking about how long we were planning on waiting before we bought somewhere. I was continuously looking through Rightmove, On the Market, any housing sites, because I just found it really interesting, and an ad come up for a new property development near the location we were gonna. Sorry, I've got really bad hay fever, so my throat feels really like I need to swallow a lot. Yes, an ad came up for a housing development. I thought it was really important that we kind of get to terms with what would be available for us so we could start planning for the future. So I booked an appointment without telling Sammy to go to a housing development just to talk about houses. I booked it without telling him because I know that he would have just been like, no, we've planned that in the next 2 years we'll buy a house, so don't even think about it. But I just thought, no, I just want to go speak to them. So I planned to speak to them on my birthday. And was it 3 days after my birthday? I planned to speak to the property development around my birthday. And we went down and we just wanted to have a bit of a conversation about what would be available, what would be accessible for us, what schemes were coming out, what was going to be available in the future, and any advice that they would give us. So we both went, had a little meeting with some property developers, and we get there and they're like, so we have 5 properties that we need to sell by the end of the week. And me and Sam were like, no, no, we just kind of want an idea of what we're going to be able to afford. Anyway, we're in this moment where they're saying they've got these properties on the market at the moment that are being built and not all of them have been sold. They're literally getting plans out and showing us the layouts of apartments. And we're just going along with it. We're just like, oh yeah, this looks really good. And I think in both of our minds, we knew that it wasn't going to be something that we were going to be able to do in that moment because we just bought all of the furniture for our rental property. Anyway, we're going through all the files. They're literally making us pick apartments if we were to buy one, and it was just crazy. They were telling us about all these schemes as well in the moment, and we walked away a bit baffled because it seemed like they were trying to sell us an apartment that we didn't think we could afford. Anyway, later that week, I get an email from them. Actually, no, I think later that week, we emailed them and just said, look, we think the offer that you have, because it was a new housing development, they have loads of incentives and schemes to go with it to help first-time buyers. But we just felt like in that moment, we didn't have as much savings behind us as we would have personally liked to go ahead with it. So we just kindly declined the offer. And then 2 days later, they came back to us and kind of wanted to speak to us a little bit more about why we declined. And I just mentioned the reasons with our savings, and also the house that we were going to buy in December, we were putting down a much lower deposit. So that's kind of what we were hoping for again. Anyway, they emailed back saying that they were going to match what we were going to put down back in December, and we just were like a bit all over the place. Like we were thinking, this is too good to be true, this is quite crazy. But they essentially said, if you do want to go ahead with this, you need to come in this weekend. So this is like 5 days later, this weekend, and pick flooring and like kitchen and tiles and everything. And we were like, not even really knowing what to do. It was just so crazy. And I said to Sam, what do I do? And Sam's this person that's he likes like a long time to plan things, a long time to think about things. Whereas I'm very impulsive. I'm very like, yeah, cool, let's do it now. So I was like, he's probably going to say no, and it's fine because we're super happy here. He turns around and says yes. He then goes down and just discusses it a little bit more with the team just to make sure that we're not going to get scammed. And then a few days later, I go down and I'm blooming picking a kitchen and tiles and what flooring I want in an apartment that we didn't even know we were gonna be able to get a week before. So it has just been absolutely crazy. And yeah, we're gonna be moving twice in 6 months, which is nuts. It's just not something that was on our radar at all. It feels like, it just feels like it was meant to work out like this. I felt so disheartened in December because it's my personal biggest dream to own my property. That's just something that was really big for me. When I went traveling alone, I had loads of time to think, and the things that I wanted was to own my car and to own a house. So to get that close and then it be pulled away was really just massively heartbreaking. So I was very cautious that it was going to happen again this time, but we're hoping to sign our contracts this week, like exchange our contracts over, and we should be moving at the end of June, which is, it just doesn't even feel real that we're going to be moving into our first apartment and it's going to be ours. And I just feel really proud of us and really, really excited for another fresh start in the same year, which is just nuts. But that is my little update, and I will have loads of videos to follow, and us moving in and us packing, and I'm so excited.